Well, a very good afternoon, everybody, and that would have to stir even the most placid of people. It is July 14th, and we had to have the French national anthem, probably just as well that most of you don't speak French. It is the most bloodthirsty national anthem you could imagine. Absolutely stirring, though. So I thought you would enjoy that. She does a magnificent job, Muriel Mathieu, and it's boy, you'd take up arms if she was leading you, wouldn't you? Anyway, this is Gulf Harbour Radio, ZMH 286, Patricia and David with you on another truly miserable day here in New Zealand, and particularly in the Auckland area, or the top of the North Island area. It's been raining from, about 10 o'clock, and it's still pouring down. We have had 53 millimetres in the last less than 3 days. The barometer is 9.5 and dropping, plunging, in fact. The arrow is straight down. No wind, southerly one here, but just out to sea, there's about 50 knots, and I noticed a rather large catamaran that left a few days ago was heading back with the northerly behind them. 14 degrees Celsius here, not very tropical at all. And I'm afraid the boats here in New Zealand are just going to have to get used to it by the sound of what David was muttering before. So just not very bright on the outlook. Well, we haven't got much to talk about this evening. We've still got White Shadow out there causing concern, but he's not going to get north with the wind that he's got. So we'll just have to hold fire and see what he does when, I think it's only a day away that he might get wind from a southerly quarter. Anyway, he's still at that 28 south, 178, 179 west area. So we'll just wait and see. He is an old salt, and he could be just doing a very sensible thing, jogging around. He's just at the top of a very bad system, so it could be an awful lot worse. So nothing much more from me tonight. I am going to pass the microphone to David for another little lesson.
Yeah, we had thought he was actually stooging around the Kermadex. If you look at his position, as Tricia has been doing on the AIS, so we know exactly where he is. It's all in that area, so being as crafty as we think he is, it's quite possible that he's just sort of moving around the Kermadex a bit to get protection from the various islands that are there. At least we hope that's the case. Well, the topic today is trade wind surges. This is a paper I wrote a number of years ago, and I never did perfect the thing, so there might be some confusing aspects to it, but it is an interesting subject, and it's a phenomena that happens quite frequently in the islands, Fiji, Vanuatu, Newcastle, you name it. So a trade wind surge, as we define it, occurs when we have an intense anticyclone to our south and strong winds resulting at your northern location, and it's creating cloud and squalls, and you're wondering, why is this happening? This is a big high. It shouldn't happen in a high. Well, to start the topic, I want you to visualize that the air is a fluid and behaves in a similar way that water does. Assume that you've got a beaker of water. You'll have to excuse my analogies here. So assume you've got a beaker of water. If you pour it straight down onto a flat surface, needless to say, it splashes in all directions at once. And atmospheric analogy is a common phenomena also, and we call them microbursts. And anybody who happens to fly, as I think we've told you, both Trish and I are pilots, and we certainly pay attention whenever CVs are around. In fact, in the light aircraft, you don't want to be anywhere near these things. But anyway, you know what happens when a big CV suddenly dumps a tremendous burst of air straight down. The wind, just like the water example, goes in all directions at once, and the strength of the downflow can cause, and has caused, aircraft to crash. So let's put this aside just for a minute, and we'll look at another little experiment of mine. Let's say you're in a swimming pool or you're waist deep in water someplace, and you flatten your hand vertically just below the surface of the water and move it rapidly from, say, right to left. And you'll see very quickly that you've created an eddy or a whirlpool. Very easy thing to experiment with. Okay, now at this point, we have the basics of a very, very common occurrence in the tropics, and as the topic is the trade wind surge. Now, these surges are often seen when the strong anticyclone has formed to our south, and typically, whenever a big high, usually over 1030 central pressure, when that moves in, we cruisers in the islands not only get a blast of reinforced trades, but the wind is accompanied by cloud and often rain and squalls. So why is it windy on the perimeter of the high, and where does the cloud and rain come from? So, well, let's picture the high as a mountain. If you were to roll a ball down the mountain, obviously the steeper the mountain is, the faster the ball is going to go. Well, the ball represents the wind. Another way to look at it is a racetrack. Those on the outside of a circular track have to run faster than those on the inside, just to keep even. So at the perimeter of our big high, the wind is always faster than it is near the center. So, continuing, let's assume you're in Fiji, where most of you are now, and the prevailing wind is light to moderate east or east-southeast. And at the same time, we have a strong high moving east, maybe 35 to 40 degrees south. Now at this point, the isobars tend to compress, creating a tight gradient, a tighter gradient, as this mountain of air, which, by the way, is another way of looking at an anticyclone, moves to your south. As these stronger winds reach your latitude, up in Fiji, they are, of course, faster than the winds directly to your north, because you just had these light east or east-southeast winds, remember? So if we go back to our little hand in the water analogy, these strong winds, as they reach your location, create an eddy, just like that water. The wind to the south creates what's known as cyclonic shear, and as it goes north, then tries to turn right or to the east, it collides with the mild wind that's already there. That's your easterly and east-southeasterly. So real strong winds now coming from the west are hitting these east-southeast winds. Now at this point, there's nowhere for the clashing air to go but up. And that is exactly what happens. As this air ascends, it reaches the dew point, and as you know, when that happens, cloud forms. And if the air rises high enough, rain develops. And if it happens to break through the usual inversion layer that we have up there, thunderstorms develop. So, here is where the first analogy comes in, the one where we pour the beaker of water down on a flat surface. But now we'll shift to the atmosphere. So, when air rises, the cloud builds, but at the same time, an equal amount of air returns to the surface. That's why we have lulls and gusts when we have cloud above it. Now, the downflow wind strikes the surface of the ocean and spreads out. But the only direction that really means anything to us is the direction toward the existing trade winds. Now, these flows collide, and again, the air has got to go someplace, so what's left is up, and there we go. This is the result of more cloud and rain. So now we can see how all of this becomes self-sustaining. And it's a very common phenomenon and can be quite an unpleasant one at times. So that, in a nutshell, is the nature of a trade wind surge. So hopefully that made sense, and I'll pass this over to the chief.
Geez, I would have just said, imagine a track and field day, and the people on the outside have to start in a different spot from the ones on the inside because they've got further to run, and therefore they have to run faster to if they start at the same position. Oh, well, sort of like that. Anyway, thank you very much for that, David. And very good news from Pele about Barry on White Shadow, because he is reporting and sending messages on a daily basis on his, let's just find it here, hang on his Predict Wind site, and today he said, yesterday it was the first time that I could stand upright in the boat for 12 days. Oh joy. Well, you know, he'll just have to get a longer, faster boat, won't he? But he is just sort of drifting around, sleeping sometimes when he can't do much about the direction of the wind, as he can't at the moment. It's sort of coming at him rather strongly. So all is well with Barry, just a very sensible approach to trying to get north in a very small boat. Thank you very much for that, Kelly. Very, very useful and sets our mind at rest. I have a few emails to do now, people that were concerned, especially the folk at Marsden Point Marina. Okay, is there anybody wanting to make contact? Please call. Hello, Benno and Marlene at North Minerva. How's it going there? Over.
Yeah, already Ula from North Minerva. Today we had a little bit of rain, but now it's nice again. We had a nice bottle. And as usual here, North Minerva, all weather port. Over.
Yeah, it sure is an all-weather port. It's a good spot to be. So, and you actually got off the boat and did a bit of a snorkel. So I'm sure that was very, very pleasant.
More rain coming.
Well, more rain coming. I hope it's just up there and not here. We absolutely can snorkel just walking around at the moment.
From here.
It's from here. Oh, well, that's nice of us to extend our conditions to you, Benno. More rain coming. I'll pass the microphone.
No, yeah, it's typical cold front, and it's part and parcel of what we're experiencing down here in Northern New Zealand. It's the shape of it is basically northwest to southeast, so it's kind of at an angle like that, and then the whole thing is sort of shifting eastward, if you can picture what I'm saying. And according to the models, the worst of it looks like it's going to be late Saturday. So you'll still have a little bit more precipitation tomorrow, but late Saturday looks like the main thrust of the frontal band. The winds are going to shift as that passes you, and they'll come out of the south at that point, or southerly quadrant. So there you go. Wash the decks, I guess. Over.
Thank you very much for this information. We think about leaving with the southern winds on Saturday evening or Sunday morning. Depends on when it changes to the southern winds. Over.
Yep, that sounds like a good plan. So you just wait for it to happen and make use of it. That's what the sailors do, don't they? That's what Barry's certainly doing, waiting for the confounded southerly winds. All right, very good signal from you tonight. There's just no noise around at all. It hasn't been very good on 20 for us here, but it's certainly a very nice signal tonight. So hello to you both, and thanks for checking in. Is there anybody else?
There'll be another lesson tomorrow, but I don't know what.
Yep, nothing heard, so everyone is probably out enjoying the very nice weather up there. And I bet you don't even think about the miserable weather that we've got here. But anyway, the fire is on and it's all very pleasant. And yes, there will be another weather lesson if anyone's bored tomorrow. So he doesn't know what the topic is, but if you do happen to have something that you want to talk about, then by all means send us an email, ghradio@extra.co.nz. Okay, it's Friday tomorrow, hard to believe, isn't it? The 15th of July, midway through July, and some poor people are still waiting. Zumax, if you're listening, we'll respond to you. Doesn't sound like a very good idea, as you probably thought yourselves. But anyway, we'll do that, and I think we'll just leave the frequency to anybody who wants to use it, if you're not too busy socialising. Cheers, everybody. This is Gold Harbour Radio Clear. Oh, and by the way, there was over 11,000 COVIDs here in New Zealand today again. Cheers.